The Battle over Reconstruction. A growing conflict. Congress rejected Andrew Johnson's lenient plan and proposed a harsher one. Like Lincoln, President Andrew Johnson proposed a lenient plan for Reconstruction. He put his plan into effect himself without consulting legislators. In January 1865, Congress approved the 13th Amendment. It banned both slavery and forced labor. This amendment gave Congress the power to issue laws to enforce its terms. Johnson's plan declared amnesty to most former Confederates. It allowed Southern states to organize new governments and elect representatives for Congress. Congress rejected Johnson's plans and prepared a harsher new plan to prevent former Confederates to regain control of Southern politics. The committee tried to ban black codes, which were disguised laws used to keep African Americans under control. The 14th Amendment. Due to violence against African Americans in the South, Congress passed the 14th Amendment. Due to the brutal treatment given to African Americans in the South, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866. This act granted citizenship rights to African Americans and guaranteed civil rights to all, except Native Americans. President Johnson vetoed this bill as well as another one extending the life of the Freedmen's Bureau. Congress voted to overrule both vetoes. They obtained enough votes to issue them as laws. Congress drew up a 14th Amendment to make sure the Supreme Court would not revoke the Civil Rights Act. It was approved after radicals took control of Reconstruction. This amendment states that all people born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. It declares as well that states do not have the power to take away these rights. The state does not have the power to deprive anyone of life, liberty, or property without a due process of the law. Nor can it deny any person the equal protection of the laws. This amendment became a powerful tool for enforcing civil rights. However, a century had to pass before it served its purpose. Hiram Rhodes Ribbles was the first African American to serve in the United States Senate and in the United States Congress overall. He represented Mississippi in 1870 and 1871 during Reconstruction.
Radical Reconstruction. Due to the increasing violence against African Americans in southern states, Congress adopted a stricter form of Reconstruction. By early 1867, the Radical Republicans had won enough support from the moderates to begin a strict Reconstruction. This period is known as the Radical Reconstruction. The Reconstruction Act of 1867 dissolved the government of all southern states that refused to ratify the 14th Amendment. Military rule was imposed, dividing them into 5 military districts. Before rejoining the Union, each state had to write a new constitution and ratify the amendment. The military helped register Southern African Americans to vote. In 5 states, African American voters outnumbered white voters. In the election of 1868, Republicans won all Southern states. The states wrote a new constitution in June 1868. Congress seated representatives from 7 reconstructed states. For the first time, African Americans in the South played an active role in politics. There were African Americans selected as sheriffs, majors, and judges. Hiram Ribbles and Blanche Bruce were members of the Senate. During Radical Reconstruction, corruption was widespread, as much as excessive spending. However, there were many achievements as well, like public schools, fairer voting rules, a more even spread of taxes, property rights for women, and so on. The Republican Party grew very strong in the South, based on three key groups. First, the Scalawags were Southern whites who had opposed secession. Second, the freedmen voters. And third, the carpetbaggers were Northern whites who went south to start businesses. The 15th Amendment. Congress approved the 15th Amendment, which gave African Americans the right to vote. Radicals tried to impeach President Johnson to remove him from office. Johnson got close to leaving office, but the Senate was one vote short of the needed 2/3 for a majority. Ulysses S. Grant, Republican and war hero, won the election of 1868. In this election, about 500,000 African Americans voted. Despite opposition from Democrats, Congress approved the 15th Amendment in 1869. It took effect in 1870. It barred all states from denying the right to vote on account of race, color, or previous condition of slavery. Some African Americans thought the amendment did not fit its purpose. The states could still require voters to own property or pay a voting tax. Enraged at being shut out of power, some whites resorted to violence. They created secret societies as the Ku Klux Klan to terrorize African Americans so they would not vote. This stage was a proper setting for the end of Reconstruction.